Hello, I am Amy Schloerb, the Aligned Actor. Once again, welcome to my podcast. And today on the podcast, we are once again doing the old I tell you about a neuro-linguistic programming exercise, and then I guide you through that very exercise. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I had fun with the other one. I hope you did too. This one today, I actually had a client completely eliminate a bad habit that they had after working with this process. And I've had a lot of success with this process as well. Not quite as much success as that client had, but so, it varies. Results not typical. What are the things that we're supposed to say in infomercials and stuff? Anyway, it's a great exercise for eliminating bad habits, unwanted behaviors, things like that. It's a neuro-linguistic programming process called the Visual Swish. And the basics of it are that you use your mind's eye to swish from an image that you associate with your bad habit to one representing a version of you, a self-image that you have of yourself without this bad habit. So since we need these two images, we need a cue image that you associate with the bad habit, and then we need this self-image of you living your best life, something like that. There's some prep work to do before we get into the actual practicing of the process itself. So there's some steps here. First step, we need an unwanted behavior. And so for the purposes of this podcast episode, I'm going to go ahead and choose scrolling on social media because that's something that I do a lot of and I would like to do less of. So the cue image, what's the last thing that I see before I know I'm going to scroll on social media? So the thing that I always see last is my phone in my hands and those bright little icons for Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or X or whatever social media thing. For me, it's Facebook and Instagram, sometimes now TikTok. And that's what I see, right? So I see that image really clearly in my mind. That's the cue image. That's the image that says, I am about to engage in this unwanted behavior. I am about to engage in this bad habit of scrolling on social media because I'm going to open these apps. Okay, so I have that image. I have my cue image. Now what I need is a self image, a mind picture of me, Amy, a version of me without this behavior, without this unwanted behavior. And I'm going to go ahead and use a photograph that I can picture of myself where I was out in nature. I was in the middle of a river and I have this big smile on my face and I'm wearing this big hat. And I just love this picture. And I feel really present and really connected to nature and to things in the real world when I look at this picture. Like I feel grounded and like that's the feeling that it evokes within me. And so that it's very easy for me to then associate this image of myself with the version of me that is not addicted to social media and scrolling on social media as much as might be doing nowadays. So now I have my cue image, it's my hand and those icons for the social media apps. And then I have the self image of myself in that river with my big smile out in nature, living my best life, as they say. So now let's get into what we actually do in the visual swish process. So we have these two images, and we basically practice swishing or rapidly changing between the cue image and the self image. And the way that this is set up typically within neuro-linguistic programming, but I think there's a lot of different ways to set this up. And I think it kind of just depends on how your mind works and how your mind conceptualizes things and sees things in your mind's eye. But the way that it's described sort of classically, the way I was taught it, You have the cue image kind of really big, and it's up front and it's in your face. And then you have the self image kind of small and maybe dark and down off in a corner or something. And the cue image is really big and the self image is really small. And then you rapidly, when a practitioner says swish, and then you just start doing it kind of on your own, but you rapidly eliminate the cue image by maybe draining all the color from it, making it really small, zooming it off into the distance, poofing it away altogether. Whatever you do, you manipulate this cue image so that it just disappears from your mind and is immediately replaced by the self image. And the self image is then big and bright and close and inviting and enticing and all of those types of adjectives. And I almost see it like the cue image just poof disappears, as if you were on a computer, you like closed that tab and it's gone. And then and at the same time, the self image is like the like minimized tab that then pops up, and there's like that animation where it like pops up onto your screen and it's really bright and beautiful. Something like that. That's just the image that comes into my mind of how this sort of dynamic plays out between these two images within my own mind's eye. Again, your mind's eye is probably going to do this differently, and however your mind's eye does it is perfectly wonderful for you. And the point here is just to go from the cue image to the self image as rapidly as possible. And the point of that is that then the cue image becomes so closely and automatically linked to the self image that you can't help but have the self image just immediately replace the cue image. And it's sort of Pavlovian, right? So like Pavlov had his bells and his hungry dogs, and he would ring the bell and feed them dinner. And then he would ring the bell and feed them dinner. And then eventually, and they would salivate for the food at first and really like the food. But then eventually he would ring the bell and they would start salivating because they were like so closely linked, the bell and the food, that they were like, dinner, 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 yay. So it's sort of the same here, where like that cue image is going to become so closely linked to that new self image where, you see the self image and immediately it gets replaced by, or sorry, excuse me, I misspoke. You see the cue image and it immediately gets replaced by the self image. You start salivating for that self image. You're like, I know it's coming. It's going to be the self image. And that's what I really want. What I really want is that self image of me that doesn't have this bad habit, this unwanted behavior. So, yeah. So that's what we're doing. That's the idea here. And so now I want to guide you through this process. So again, pause the podcast if you need to come up with these images, if you need to figure out a cue image. And the question to ask there is, what's the last thing I see before I know I'm going to engage in this bad habit? So for me, it was holding my phone and seeing the icon for the Facebook app or the icon for the Instagram app, and I know I'm going to click on it. And so then I replace that with the self image, the image of me in the river. So go ahead and figure out for yourself, what is the last thing I see before I know that I'm going to engage in this bad habit of mine, this unwanted behavior. And your self image. So a nice image of a version of you without this habit, some kind of image that you can associate with that version of you. And so assuming that you have those two images, let's go ahead and get started. So go ahead and find a comfortable position for your body. And just begin by focusing on your breath. And now go ahead and put both of your images in your mind's eye. And the cue image should be big, front and center, bright. And then the self-image should be kind of small, maybe off to the side or down in one corner. And now, as I say swish, go ahead and let the cue image go. Maybe it dissolves or zooms off into the distance, and immediately your self-image replaces it by zooming into the foreground of your mind and becoming big and bright and enticing. Great. So go ahead and reset your images. Now, do not swish between them to get back to the cue image. Don't do the process backwards. We only want to do the process one way. It always goes cue to self. Cue to self. Let it all go. Cue to self. Let it all go. Cue to self. We get it. So again, put your cue image up. It's really big. It's in the foreground again. Self-image is small, off to the side. And again, I say swish, and the cue image is immediately replaced by the self-image. And we're going to do that a few more times with me just saying swish and reset. So go ahead, let everything go. Go ahead and put your cue image up. It's big. The self is small. And swish. See if you can make the self image even more inviting. Really lean into it. Let it all go. Reset. Swish. How bright and beautiful can you make your self-image in your mind? Really milk it. Enjoy it. Go ahead and let it all go. Bring up your cue image. Maybe the cue image is starting to become hard to hold on to. The self-image might be jumping up, like an eager puppy or something, which is great. So swish. Let it all go. Reset your cue image. Swish. Let it all go. Reset the cue image and the self-image small. Swish. Great. Okay, so we are done for now. You can go ahead and let all the images go from your mind. And you can open your eyes if they were closed. And that is the visual swish process. And feel free to repeat this audio if you want to strengthen the process even more and use it for other habits that you want to break. But that was excellent work, and you should be very proud of yourself for doing that. So yeah, that's the visual swish process, and you got a taste of it. You got to understand it and sort of see what it was about, and then apply it if you so chose to do so here live on the podcast. Not live, but you know what I mean. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. If you are liking the podcast, if you would go ahead and leave me a review, that would be really lovely and nice. I would love it. Also, please subscribe to the podcast. I think that really helps it out in some way. It helps other people find it more easily. And if you want any more information about me, Amy Schloerb, the aligned actor, or my work as a life coach, as a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner, as a mindfulness practitioner, you can visit my website, thealignedactor.com. And yeah, you can find out more about me and how to work with me and things like that. All right. Take care until next time. Bye.